Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about a bit of a news story that's came out on Twitter regarding Sony and some studio closures and a new game that never, you asked me yesterday, I would have had no clue that I'd be talking about today. It's completely out of left field. I want to know what your guys' thoughts are on it, but let's talk about that in the video. So it's come out today on Twitter by a Jason Schreier who used to work at Taku, who now works for Bloomberg, that Sony is being a little bit strange with regards to its studios, and what it's also doing is bringing out a remake for a game that I doubt very many people were itching for a remake for. Now, this is quite a lengthy news story. I'm actually just going to read it because it's actually hidden behind a paywall and not a lot of people get a chance to know what the content of it is. So I'll read it to you and then I'll give my thoughts on it at the end. So the title of the article is Sony's obsession with blockbusters is stirring unrest within the PlayStation empire. A small team had big ambitions for a Last of Us remake? Really? And Sony handed the work to star studio Naughty Dog. So, by Jason Schreier, big shout out to Jason Schreier. It was simply published today, not too long ago, and we'll dive in and we'll talk about the article. So, Sony Corp's Visual Arts Service Groups has long been the unsung hero of many hit PlayStation video games. The San Diego-based operation helps finish off games designed at Sony's other owned studios, with animation, art, or other content in development. But about 3 years ago, a handful of influential figures within the Visual Arts Service Group decided they wanted to have more creative control and lead game direction rather than supporting actors on popular titles such as Spider-Man and Uncharted. Michael Mumber, who founded the Visual Arts Service Group in 2007, recruited a group of about 30 developers internally and from neighbouring game studios to form a new development unit within Sony. The idea was to expand upon some of the company's most successful franchises, and the team began working on a remake of the 2013 hit The Last of Us. We'll talk about that later. For the PlayStation 5. But Sony never fully acknowledged the team's existence or gave them the funding and support needed to succeed in the highly competitive video game market, according to people involved. The studio never even got its own name. Instead, Sony moved ownership of The Last of Us remake to its original creator, Naughty Dog, a Sony-owned studio, behind many of the company's best-selling and a HBO television series in development. Sorry for messing up my speech there. Deflated, the small group's leadership has largely disbanded, according to interviews with 8 people familiar with the operation. Many, including Mamba, have left the company entirely. Mamba declined to comment, and others asked not to be named, discussing private information. A representative for Sony declined to comment or provide interviews. The team's failure highlights the complex hierarchy of video games development, and in particular, Sony's conservative approach to making games for the PlayStation 5. The Japanese conglomerate owns about a dozen studios across the world as part of its PlayStation Studios label, but in recent years it has prioritised games made by its most successful developers. Studios such as Santa Monica, California-based Naughty Dog, and Amsterdam-based Guerrilla Games spend tens of millions of dollars to make games with the expectation that investments will pay off exponentially, and they usually do. Hits including 2008's God of War and 2020's The Last of Us Part 2 are exclusive to PlayStation consoles, helping Sony sell some 114 million of the PlayStation 4. Rival Microsoft Corp has taken the opposite approach, relying on a wide array of studios to feed its Netflix-like subscription Xbox Game Pass, which allows users to pay a monthly fee for unlimited access to a variety of games. Sony's focus on exclusive blockbusters has come at the expense of niche teams and studios within the PlayStation organisation, leading to high turnover and less choice for players. Last week, Sony reorganised a development office in Japan, resulting in mass departures of people who worked on less known but highly acclaimed games such as Gravity Rush and Everybody's Golf. The company has informed developers that it no longer wants to produce smaller games that are only successful in Japan, Bloomberg has reported. This fixation on teams that churn out hits is creating unrest across Sony's portfolio of game studios. Oregon-based Sony Bend, best known for 2019 open-world action game Days Gone, tried unsuccessfully to pitch a sequel that year. According to people familiar with the proposal, now, although the first game had been profitable, its development had been lengthy and critical reception was mixed, so a Days Gone 2 wasn't seen as a viable option. Instead, one team at the studio was assigned to help Naughty Dog with a new multiplayer game, while a second group was assigned to do work on a new Uncharted game, with supervision from Naughty Dog. Some staffs, including top leads, were unhappy with this arrangement and left. Ben's developers feared they might be absorbed into Naughty Dog, and the studio leadership asked to be taken off the Uncharted project. They got their wish last month and are now working on a new game of their own. Emphasising big hits can also be counterproductive because sometimes games that start small can turn into massive successes. In 2002, Sony didn't put much marketing muscle behind the quirky video game creation system Dreams by the PlayStation-owned Media Molecule in the UK. As a result, PlayStation may have missed out on its own version of Roblox, a similar video game tool. Parent company Roblox Corp went public earlier this year and is now valued at 45 billion. Don't know why I read that wrong. For their first solo project, Mumber and his crew wanted to pitch something that would be well received by their bosses at Sony. Recognising the risks and expense involved with developing a new game from scratch, they decided to focus on remaking older games for the new PlayStation 5. Remakes are considered a safe bet since it's cheaper to update and polish an old game than it is to start from scratch, and they can be sold both to nostalgic old fans and curious new ones. The team originally planned on a remake of the first Uncharted game. Just going to cut in here. That would make more sense to me than remaking The Last of Us at this point. But anyway, we'll carry on. Which was released by Naughty Dog in 2007. That idea quickly fizzled because it would be expensive and require too much added design work. Instead, the team settled on a remake of Naughty Dog's 2013 melancholic zombie hit The Last of Us. At the time, Naughty Dog was in the thick of development on the sequel The Last of Us Part 2, which would introduce higher fidelity graphics and new gameplay features. If Mumber's crew remade the first game to have a look and feel similar to the sequel, the two games could be packaged together for the PlayStation 5. In theory, this would be less expensive than remaking Uncharted, since The Last of Us was more modern and it wouldn't require too many gameplay overhauls. Then, once Mumber's group had established itself, it could go on to remake the first Uncharted game and other titles down the road. But pivoting from doing finishing work for other games to making your own is difficult, since original development teams are competing against hundreds of other teams from all over the world with varying levels of experiences and successes, said Dave Lang, founder of Iron Galaxy Studios, which has served as a support team and a development studio. The people funding the work are often risk averse, and if they have to pick between a team that's done it before and someone trying to do it on their own for the first time, I can see why some people pick the prior developer over the latter, he said. That's just what Sony did. Mumber's project, codename T1X, was approved on a probationary basis, but Sony kept the team's existence a secret and refused to give them a budget to hire more people, leading many to wonder if the company was really committed to letting the team build a new studio. Still, the small team kept working, and by the spring of 2019, they had completed a section of the game designed to showcase how the rest would look and feel. At that time, Sony was going through a management restructure, and the new boss wasn't impressed. The former head of Guerrilla Games was named as PlayStation Worldwide Studios head in November 2019. He thought the remake project was too expensive, according to people familiar with the matter, and asked why the planned budget for T1X was so much higher than remakes Sony had made in the past. The reason was that this one was a brand new graphical engine for the PS5. Mumber needed to hire more people to help rework the graphics on new technology as well as redesign gameplay mechanics. Hulse wasn't convinced, the people said. Just when it hoped to enter production on the remake of The Last of Us, Momba's team got called to help in with another big game. The release of The Last of Us 2 had been pushed from 2020 to 2020 from 2019, and Naughty Dog needed the Visual Arts Service Group to polish it off. Most of Momba's team, along with some of the other 200 or so staff that the Visual Arts Service Group was assigned to support Naughty Dog, slowing down progression on its own game. Then the roles got reversed. Sony sent word that after the completion of The Last of Us 2, some people from Naughty Dog would help out with T1X. Momba's team saw this as their short-lived autonomy being stripped. Dozens of Naughty Dog staff were joining the project, and some had actually worked on the original Last of Us, giving them more weight in discussions about T1X's direction. The game was moved under Naughty Dog's budget, which Sony gave more leeway than Visual Arts Services Group. Soon, it was apparent that Naughty Dog was in charge, and the dynamics returned to what they'd been for the last decade and a half. The Visual Arts supporting group aiding another team of developers rather than leading. To Sony, the move made sense. Naughty Dog is one of the key studios for Sony's ability to sell PlayStations. Sony's competitive advantage has always been at making exclusive content over Microsoft and more new games, as well as remakes of classic titles from such a storied team can help sustain demand for PS5. But those who had wanted independence were disappointed. By the end of 2020, most of the T1X team's top staff had left, including Momba and the game's director David Hall. Today, the T1X project remains in development at Naughty Dog with assistance from Sony Visual Arts Studio Group. The future of the remainder of Momba's team, which has come to be jokingly referred to Naughty Dog South, remains unclear. So, big long story. Basically, what I take from that is Sony gave these guys the green light to go and do a project and then just didn't support them. To me, that's a bit shitty. I mean, if you're going to give someone the keys to the kingdom, so to speak, you've got to support them, you've got to help them, not just throw them to the wolves and suddenly tell them you're not getting any more money. It's a bit of a shame. I mean, obviously this project still exists, and what I want to know from you guys, I've obviously touched on it while reading that story out there. Do you think The Last of Us 1 needs a remake? I mean, obviously it's had a remaster, but does it need a remake? Now, obviously, if you look at the remaster, it's simply take the core game, add in improved graphical elements, and that's it, let it go. If you look at a remake, you look at something like Resident Evil 1 and 2, then core elements of the game change. You know, they add new set pieces, they add different puzzles, different missions, that type of thing. Do you want them to do something like that to The Last of Us? Or are you like me? I'm about to reveal my card right now. You would rather just get new IPs? I mean, rather than spending millions and millions of pounds remaking a game because you think this is going to be a surefire hit, would you rather Sony just developed new games? I personally would, as I've obviously made clear. I don't want to see the video games industry become the movie industry, where they struggle to come up with new and original ideas, so what they constantly do is try and reinvent or reinvigorate old ideas. I think this could be us slipping deeper down a path that gaming has been venturing down the last few years with the constant remasters. I just don't want to see games that don't need remakes getting remade. Taking a game from the 8-bit era or the 16-bit era and remaking it into a 3D, completely different game, that to me is something completely different, and I can see some value in that. But taking a game from less than 10 years ago and completely remaking it, I just feel like that's not what I want to see from the gaming industry. But anyway, big long ass story there, guys. Let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. I've been Hazink, and I'll catch you on the next video. Peace.